Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Rantoinette. Thanks so much for joining me. We've got so many stories to get through today. We've got the brouhaha brewing in Venezuela. We've got Donald Trump's sleepy yet somehow racist cabinet meeting. We've got the economy. We've got right-wingers fighting. We got Trump pardoning some of the worst people on earth, and so very, very much more. Before I get started, if you guys wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out in the algorithm. And if you want to comment on anything I have to say, please do that too. I encourage all opinions on this show. So thank you very much for tuning in. Now let's get started with Venezuela. It's starting to more and more look like quite the quagmire that is developing down in the southern hemisphere. And we got CNN's Jake Tapper. No, that is not his porn name. And he kind of goes over the broad strokes of what's been going on this week.
Pentagon is facing growing questions about the legality of that move and the campaign in general. Now, the concession comes following reporting from CNN's Natasha Bertrand, as well as others at The Washington Post and The Intercept, that the U.S. carried out this double tap after the initial attack, which a source told CNN that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said needed to kill everyone on board. And we're told that that first strike did not kill everyone on board, so the second strike killed those survivors, even though, according to The Washington Post, they were, quote, clinging to the smoldering wreck, unquote.
Before we get any further into this, I want you to understand that the first strike was a war crime. Under international law, we are not allowed to use military force without having first declared war on that country. And the only body that is able to declare war is Congress. And since Congress has abdicated its power to the presidency, Donald Trump is just doing it. I mean, the other day he had a quote. What was his quote? It was something absolutely ridiculous. It was like, I don't think we need to declare war. We're just going to, shoot him down and kill him. We're just going to kill him. We're just going to kill him. So it's murder. And we seem to be having this conversation about the second strike. The first strike was a war crime. Pete Keg's breath.
Quote, and posed no apparent threat to the United States. It's a move, the double tap that President Trump said yesterday he opposes.
I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike.
Now today,
he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. I've said it before. He is not running the show anymore. The only reason why he ran for president in the first fucking place is so he wouldn't have to go to jail. And now he's got a handful of people that are just basically doing all the work for him. Though he screams and yells about Joe Biden and the auto fucking pen, Donald Trump does not know his elbow from his asshole when it comes to what's going on at the White House. I wouldn't have wanted that. Oh, did Stephen Miller shut down a factory and arrest 500 South Koreans? I didn't know that. Either he knows and he's lying, or he doesn't know and he's incompetent. Either way, 25th fucking amendment.
there is growing bipartisan concern on Capitol Hill about that second strike, with some suggesting that it could constitute a war crime.
I'm going to save you the trouble. It is a war crime.
This is what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about that earlier today.
Does the administration deny that that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe.
To clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
He was well within his authority to do so. Caroline, she's the reason for the word bitch. Bitch. Just bad.
Now, please note, the Trump administration went from the Pentagon spokesman claiming, quote, the entire narrative is false. These people just fabricate anonymously sourced stories out of whole cloth. Fake news is the enemy of the people. He said that 2 days ago. To today, the White House confirmed the story. The Hegseth order the September 2nd strike, the double tap. Remarkable. The White House's acknowledgement of the double tap comes after Secretary Hegseth went on X and said that the stories were, quote, fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory, though neither he nor anyone at the Pentagon ever specified what, if anything, was inaccurate. Hegseth also, believe it or not, posted this meme of a fake...
Oh, God, look at that, man. He is using children's cartoon characters in his propaganda videos. Isn't that nice? Maybe if we zoom in on that boat, you might find Dora the Explorer on there. I would not doubt that if Stephen Miller had a chance to deport her, he absolutely would. Anyway, moving on. All of this has been made possible. This story, as you see, is 8 months old, but all of this has been made possible because one of the very first things that Pete Hegseth did when he got put into the cabinet position that he's in was to get rid of all of the JAG officers, the judges and lawyers, got them out of the way because he knew that law is just, I don't know, it's kind of like a barrier between him and what he wants to do. So ultimately, the first thing he did was get rid of a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of JAG Corps officers that would be an impedance upon him doing war crimes. Pete Hegseth is expected in the coming weeks to start a sweeping overhaul of the Judge Advocate General Corps as part of his effort to make the U.S. military less restricted by laws of armed conflict. Isn't that wonderful? So all of this has been made possible by first getting rid of the legal barriers into doing all of his criminal activity. Now, right after that first strike, he went on Fox News to start spreading the propaganda. And of course, the folks over at Fox and Friends are happy to let him. Let's have a listen and see if we can pick out anything that seems a bit off.
All right, joining us now is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Pete, good morning to you first.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the president
Great to see you all.
Good to see you too. Thanks for your service. The president put that video of him eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board, and the president said on
Allegedly. How are we supposed to know what's on the boat if you don't get the people off and find out what's on there? If it was really drugs, it would be great propaganda for your invasion of Venezuela, which ultimately that's what this is about, war with Venezuela. But of course, they don't do that. Whatever cargo it was on the boat sinks to the bottom of the ocean. How are we supposed to know? All we know is there's 15,000 troops stationed down by Venezuela, at least a dozen major war vessels. All you are doing is threatening Maduro with war. I don't have to like Maduro to know that what you're doing is a war crime. And it's just straight up murder.
social, let them on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly.
Yeah, but we don't, Pete. That's the problem. We don't know that because you did not provide any evidence of it.
What they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented, and that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated.
Tren de Aragua composes of about 400 people in this country. That's if you have not already arrested them. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Venezuelan government. We all see this. We all know when you're lying, your lips are moving.
By the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related, from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South.
Yeah, many of which started off from the Sackler family. Are we going to place blame at their feet? Oh, no. They just get to pay a fine and move on with their lives. But we're going after Venezuela, which, by the way, zero fentanyl comes out of Venezuela. Zero fentanyl comes out of Colombia. The majority of the drugs that come out of Colombia is cocaine, which I guess if you're Donald Trump Jr., you know all about that. But the majority of fentanyl comes from China into factories in Mexico and then comes across the border, mostly carried by Americans, not by Mexican nationals, but Americans. I don't care how big they say that their calves are. Surviving cling to a capsized boat, did not radio for backup. Admiral overseeing double tax strike tells lawmakers. So the guy, his name is Admiral Bradley, who replaced Alvin Halsey, who basically told Pete Hegseth, I do not like the fact that you're breaking international law by blowing up these boats. I object to it. And then Pete Hegseth is like, okay, well, you can quit. And he did. So now we got a new guy, and Admiral Bradley was asked about the two survivors that they double tapped. And he's like, no, they weren't radioing in for backup, which is what a lot of Republicans are now saying is what they were doing. So let's picture this. A big old missile hit your boat. It's flipped over. You and one other person are the sole survivors. There were like 11 people in the boat, but there's only 2 of you that are left alive. And you're trying to flip the boat over so you cannot drown in the ocean. And the first thing you think to do is to grab your waterlogged, ocean-soaked radio to call in to have backup. What kind of backup? Do the drug dealers have airstrike capabilities? Are they going to come in a helicopter and rescue you before the Navy military vessel that just blew you up pulls up alongside and then does the double tap on you? That dog simply will not hunt. That idea of them radioing in for backup is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Drowning men do not reach for the radio to go, hey, come here and pick us up and you can get the rest of the drugs that we've still got floating in the water. Jesus. The amount of sad, pathetic, lying propaganda that they try to push, and somehow or the other, there are a bunch of people that will inevitably believe it. I don't know why, but they will. That's the dude. Alvin Halsey, that was the one that said, I object to you breaking international law. It's not what we do here in the military. That is a grizzled-looking, seasoned veteran. And we've got the whiskey-laden, wife-beating, third-string Fox News failed son, whose mother said that she was ashamed of him, telling a 30-plus year Navy veteran, I don't give a fuck what you think about military law or the code of military conduct or international law. We're doing it because, bro, I love blowing up shit. Shocking retirement revealed. It's not that shocking. Pete told him to do something stupid, and he said, no, I ain't doing it. Now, moving on to the cabinet meeting that Donald Trump was trying so desperately hard not to fall asleep in. You got Pete Hegseth, loudmouth Pete, on one side, and got little Marco on the other side. They're doing everything they can to direct the conversation at Donald Trump to keep him awake and engaged for this cabinet meeting where they shower him with nothing but praise. Well, Pete is over here not only just giving the game away about what he's doing illegally, but at the same time trying so hard to, hey, the buck stops with me, except when it doesn't and when I'm not in the room. Because apparently for this particular strike, Pete wasn't even in the room. He was in the room for the first strike, but the room he's talking about is not the Situation Room, not even at the Pentagon. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he was at home. And he just got a phone call and he's like, yeah, go ahead and do it. As far as the second strike goes, he's like, well, I mean, it's completely lawful what the admiral did, but it was absolutely his decision. But I'm here to tell you, I'm backing him up 100%. But, you know, it wasn't me. It was that admiral.
Them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation.
You know, that sounds like work, you know, and besides, it takes me at least a couple of hours in my makeup chair to get ready for camera.
Usually occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do.
He had complete authority, but he made the decision.
And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat.
Then he sunk it again.
And eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer.
I mean, if he does get into trouble, you know, that would suck for him. But just so you know, I only authorized the first one, which is still a war crime, Pete. But the second one, that was all on him. And, you know, I wasn't even there, and I was only there for the first one. And, you know, I had other stuff to do. I'm having a busy time being the Secretary of War. I just wanted to show you this because I think that somebody is trolling Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, SS Secretary of War. Yeah, you definitely got that right with the SS, young fascist Pete Hegseth. Now, here's the tweet that he put out. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I didn't do this, it was somebody else. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him and the combat decision that he has made. You're the boss, applesauce, but he stands by him in the decisions that he has made on September 2nd mission and all other since. America is fortunate to have such men protecting us. Oh, Daddy, protect me. When this Department of War, they even changed the fucking hashtag, isn't that adorable? Say we have the backs of our warriors and we mean it. Unfortunately, this next tweet kind of negates that. There's this guy, his name is Andrew Colvett. He is a right-wing podcaster. He is now more affiliated with Turning Point USA since Charlie Kirk is no longer with us. He is trying to take the mantle. There's a lot of guys trying to take that place. But anyway, he put out a tweet, a podcaster, saying, every new attack aimed at Pete Hegseth makes me want another narco drug boat blown up and sent to the bottom of the ocean. And then Pete Hegseth answers him by saying, your wish is our command, Andrew. We just sunk another narco boat. So does the buck stop with you or not, Pete? Seriously. By the way, the whole narco terrorist designation is such fucking horseshit. You're combining the war on terror with the war on drugs, and we all see through it. It's the saddest version of propaganda I think I've ever seen. Usually, it takes the Republican Party a year and a half to talk their people into going into a full-scale war for oil. But, you know, Pete and Donald Trump are trying to fast-pace this and get this shit done before Donald Trump kicks the bucket or before Congress is lost in the 2026 election. They really want this war. And a war with Venezuela, they are a lot more prepared than a war with Iraq. On the other side of Donald Trump, we've got Marco Rubio, little Marco. That's what I call him. It takes two hands to hold a little bottle of water. Anyway, Marco Rubio, he is really all about this war with Venezuela because Venezuela has helped out in some respect Cuba. They are allies. And Cuba is where Marco Rubio's family came from. Now, of course, he will allude to the fact that the reason why he left is because of Castro and all of the socialism that was going on. But his family escaped Cuba in 1958. That was under the Batista regime. And the Batista regime was very corrupt and very cordial to America. They allowed a lot of criminality to go on in Cuba under Batista. a la The Godfather. But Marco's family escaped Cuba well before that. Anyway, not only is Venezuela and Maduro allies with Castro's Cuba, but with Iran and Hezbollah. Get all the way the fuck out of here.
Iran, its IRGC, and even Hezbollah has a presence in South America, and one of their anchor presence, especially for the Iranians, is inside of Venezuela.
God damn, man. I mean, it is the baldest faced lie of all time. Some small Middle Eastern groups, now I'm not saying Iran's military is a small group, but honey, they are centralized in Iran. Hezbollah, get the fuck out of here, man. They have a presence in Venezuela. Oh, come now. Come now. Now, let's hear from a couple of Democrats. They have some things to say about this wannabe invasion. Donald Trump has been desperate to overthrow Maduro and get his grubby little hands on their black gold Texas tea style. A handful of Democrats are now finally starting to talk about this 2 months after the fact. Where the hell have y'all been? I'm getting tired of screaming about this.
Democratic Senator Chris Murphy on the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator Murphy, you know, you're hearing the concerns from Congressman Turner. He's awaiting a briefing. He's awaiting more details, but obviously saying if it happened as it's laid out, that's illegal. Are you hearing similar concerns from your Republican colleagues? I mean, are there others who are sort of awaiting whatever they see as final confirmation before coming out?
Well, Pete Hegseth has to go. He has to resign. Donald Trump has to fire him. If he doesn't resign,
hold your breath.
Talking national security embarrassment. And I think it is really disturbing that you don't have more Republicans speaking out and saying that it's time for him to go. Because, of course, you know, this is just the latest in a series of embarrassments. There's all sorts of reports from the very beginning of the year that morale is low, that there's disorder at the Department of Defense. He's hiring his political cronies. He seems to care more about body shape and facial hair than he does about the security of the country. And now these really serious allegations of really disturbing immoral behavior by the secretary. So it's time for him to go. But I think, you know, you are hearing from Representative Turner and other Republicans a reluctance to take on the president right now. I think that's a shame. I think people should put the security of the country before their loyalty to the president.
So Secretary Hegseth has just posted something that I wanted to ask you about. He said, let's make one thing crystal clear. Admiral Mitch Bradley is an American hero, a true professional, and has my 100% support. I stand by him in the combat decisions he has made on the September 2nd mission and all others since. America is fortunate to have such men protecting us. When this Department of War says we have the back of our warriors, we mean it. Okay, let me just translate this into... He's pinning this on Bradley. Okay, he's saying that's what that's about, right? I mean, where do you see this headed?
He is passing the buck. He sort of sees the freight train that is coming, right? That both Republicans and Democrats are coming to the conclusion that this was an illegal, wildly immoral act, and he is shifting the blame. It's the opposite of the buck stops here, and boy, it's a chilling signal to everyone in the chain of command that the Secretary of Defense does not have your back. Now, in this case, it seems likely that he actually did give the order, that he gave the order to kill everyone on that boat, and that those in the chain of command were simply following his orders. But he is basically telling everyone, all of his generals, all of the professional staff of the Department of Defense, that I'm going to save myself if things get tough. And that's just devastating for American national security.
Yeah, it is. It's not good. We've got a third-string Fox News host that looks like he's straight out of Central Casting, who is very concerned about the military's body mass index and whether or not they have beards and the warrior spirit, who is dead set and ready to throw anybody under the bus to save his own ass. Moving on, we've got another warmongering psychopath. This is Tom Cotton, and Tom doing his very best impression of evil Jimmy Stewart, or maybe just a walking, talking Christmas tree. And let me tell you, this guy right here has never met a bomb he didn't want to drop.
For coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes.
Righteous.
These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were
How many strikes were there?
entirely lawful,
All of them.
needful, and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
So lawful, needful, and exactly what we'd expect our military generals and commanders to do, except for the commanders that said this is absolutely illegal and against international law, and I quit. But aside from those people, you know, it's exactly what we would expect our sycophantic bootlickers that remain to do. Now, John Berman over on CNN decides to ask this ridiculously lanky, tall drink of water who is all neck and no brains a simple question about international law and whether or not what they did was illegal, and he does not have a very good answer, let me tell you.
Question: if they are terrorists, when did Congress pass the authorized use of force to attack them?
Every war that we've had in the Middle East since 9/11 has had this authorization of use of military force. And it was always bastardized into something else. Hey, there's another country we need to bomb. Let's use that authorization on another country. Oh, Syria didn't attack us, but you know, it's brown, it's Muslim-ish. Let's drop some bombs and we'll use that authorization to do so. Venezuela has fuck all to do with what's going on in the Middle East. But like I said at the beginning of this, the designation of calling them terrorists is just an easy way to be able to, or an attempt for them to try to use this AUMF on them as well.
John, the reason why your question is not well-founded is like saying, would Barack Obama be okay droning an American citizen when he was president?
So what about ism? I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm going to start off by telling you that your question is stupid. No, honey, that is a very intelligent question. How are you using this classification and designation of terrorist on Venezuela?
Would be okay droning an American citizen when he was president like he did to Anwar al-Awlaki over in the Middle East. These are...
Yeah, Anwar al-Awlaki was an American citizen that Barack Obama killed in a drone strike. You know who else was killed in a drone strike? Anwar al-Awlaki's daughter, 8-year-old daughter, was Donald Trump's very first victim in his very first presidential term. Maybe a week after he was inaugurated, he assassinated her along with a lot of people at a dinner party or a wedding. And she was an American citizen as well. Of course, Donald Trump would say, well, she should have had a better father. That sounds pretty par for the course for the Republican Party. But Barack Obama was asked if he wanted to do that before he left office. And he's like, I learned my lesson off of the first killing of Anwar al-Awlaki. I'm not going to kill his 8-year-old daughter. And him using this as an excuse is like saying, so what Barack Obama did was bad and illegal, but since he did it, we get to do it. That's the whole, Johnny jumped off the bridge, I get to do it too.
Totally different categories. The
Senator,
president
that's why I
has
asked.
the
That's why I
inherent
asked.
authority
That's
under
why
the
I asked.
Constitution as our
That's why I
commander-in-chief.
asked.
Shut up, Tom.
When Congress passed the authorized use of military force. There was an authorized use of military force against terrorists. I'm not saying what he did was legal or not, but that's what they based it on. In this case, when was the authorized use of military force to attack suspected drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela?
John, the president has inherent authority as the commander-in-chief under the Constitution to protect America using our armed forces against a foreign terrorist organization.
They're not terrorists by any definition, even if it is all true and they are in fast boats and they're bringing drugs over, which, by the way, that boat would have to stop at least a half a dozen times before it reached the shore of America, which means it's probably going to Trinidad and Tobago or something like that. But let's just say it was filled with drugs, and they're absolutely right. Number one, it's still illegal. It's still a war crime, but it is at best drug smuggling. It is not terrorism. And just because Donald Trump changes their classification to terrorism does not make them fucking terrorists. If that was the case, then Eli Lilly and other pharmaceutical companies that push any kind of morphine, Vicodin, oxycodone, what have you, they would be considered terrorists too.
Congress has passed laws that allows the president to designate foreign terrorist organizations. That's what he's done with these cartels in Venezuela.
So first I designate them, and then we kill them. That's it, folks. We just kill them.
Who are deeply intertwined with the illegitimate Maduro regime. The president is finally
It is not illegitimate. He was elected. Whether or not you like the fact that he does seem to be running his country into the ground and he does have an authoritarian bent to him, it's still a sovereign country. We have absolutely no right or business trying to overthrow them. But honestly, this is America, and that is our stock and trade. Socialist, social leaning, leftist, fuck it. Any leader of a country that does not give us complete and full access to all of their material wealth, if they don't cough it up, then we blow them up.
Non-state actors. I will say the latest explanation, excuse me, Senator, the latest explanation from the administration is they are non-state actors in this case. That is important for them to designate they are non-state actors here. They are not, for purposes of attacking them off the coast of Venezuela, connected to the Maduro.
They're not affiliated with the president.
Andrew McCarthy and other conservative writers will say that they don't qualify.
Donald Trump just pardoned a narco trafficker a couple of days ago. Literally just pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was caught, tried, and convicted of being a narcotics trafficker. Donald Trump pardoned him. So this whole narco-terrorism shit is just that. It's just bullshit.
The statutory definition of what a terrorist is in U.S. code.
I don't care about
John,
that.
I disagree that all of these cartels in Latin America do qualify as foreign terrorists. And frankly, their activities have killed many more Americans than Al-Qaeda or ISIS has killed.
Sweetheart, Donald Trump just cut the health care of 17 million Americans. That is going to kill tens of thousands of people. Do you consider that a war crime too? Do you consider that fucking terrorism? Spare me.
And it's a threat that we should take seriously in our own backyard, just as seriously as we take the threat of Al-Qaeda and ISIS around the world. I think most Americans, especially those Arkansans who have lost loved ones to drugs, would agree that we need to take this threat seriously.
Then when will you vote on an authorized use of military force if it's as big of a threat as foreign terrorists?
Good question.
John, I think the president has every legal authority he needs as the commander.
We're not going to vote on it. We're just going to let him do it. We're just going to let the president, do his thing. Here's another Republican on, for God's sakes, Newsmax of all places. Judge Andrew Napolitano. He used to work for Fox News. Now he's over on Newsmax. And he is not impressed by Pete Hegseth's actions, which I'm kind of shocked over, that a Republican on Newsmax is pushing back on this war machine and Pete Hegseth.
Clear that they were acting within the scope of the law. The orders were given to take out these boats, and this continues on to their effort to stop drug trafficking here in the States. It does get a little murky of what happened in terms of the orders, who carried what, who said what. Talk to us about that.
Well, I wish the White House would reveal to us the laws on which the president is relying. He says he has an opinion from the Justice Department, but neither the Justice Department or the White House will offer it for public scrutiny. And it gives me no pleasure to say what I'm about to say, because I worked with Pete Hegseth for 7 or 8 years.
Over on Fox.
At Fox News. This is an act of a war crime. Ordering survivors who the law requires be rescued instead to be murdered.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no legal basis for it. Everybody along the line who did it, from the Secretary of Defense to the Admiral to the people who actually pulled the trigger, should be prosecuted for a war crime for killing these two people.
And who would bring that prosecution forward?
military would bring them, because they're all active duty military. Not the Secretary of Defense, but everybody else would be subject to a court martial.
Exactly. So neither he nor Donald Trump are going to face any repercussions for this, even though they both should be rotting in The Hague, certainly Donald Trump. But even conservative Judge Napolitano, he's got some scathing words. And by the way, all of this just blows me away that while this whole thing is going down, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth gearing up for another 20-year war over oil. Mr. I'm going to shoot missiles into Mexico. I want to take Greenland. I want to take over the Panama Canal. He's bombed Iran. He's bombed Somalia. He's bombed Syria. He continues to fund the genocide in Gaza. And here he is getting a participation trophy from FIFA as a consolation prize for not winning the Nobel Peace Prize, which we all know Donald Trump is not just entitled to, but completely worthy of.
Both a moment for world football and a moment for Donald Trump. Two events dueled for attention on the Kennedy Center stage in Washington. The drawing of team groups to compete in the first phase of the 2026 World Cup and the awarding of the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize to
the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Please.
FIFA has been known for at least the last 10 years, probably more, of being really exceptionally corrupt. They are not a good organization, and they have been called on it many occasions. Now we've got the leader of FIFA who is doing everything he can to kiss Donald Trump's ass. I'm not 100% sure what the benefit cui bono is for FIFA, but whatever the case may be, they are all kowtowing, bending the knee, and kissing that fucking onion ring. Here he is getting a consolation peace prize that he can wear around his neck. You know, Donald Trump, he loves gold.
FIFA president and Trump's friend Gianni Infantino created the award shortly after Trump was passed up for the Nobel Peace Prize.
This is your Peace Prize. There is also a beautiful...
I remember so many times hearing from conservatives about giving little kids participation trophies for playing soccer or basketball or football or like pee-wee football. And why does everybody need to get a participation trophy? Why can't we have winners and losers? And here we are having the most powerful man with the biggest fucking diaper begging for a participation trophy. I've ended 8, 9, 12, 14 wars. How come I haven't gotten my Peace Prize? I end wars before they even start. That's how I count them, folks. I should get a goddamn medal. He wants his fucking participation trophy. It is so pathetic.
Medal for you that you can wear.
Trump called it one of the greatest honors of his life.
We saved millions and millions of lives.
Look at him, he's wearing it. He's so proud.
The Congo is an example. Over 10 million people killed, and it was heading for another 10 million very quickly.
Yeah, they had 10 million people that were killed before, and now he's saying that he did a negotiation, and there were going to be 10 million more people killed because I made it up in my brain. But since I did a negotiation with him, that war is off, and I stopped the war, put that one on the list.
And it just... You know, the fact that we could do that, India, Pakistan, so many different wars.
India and Pakistan both adamantly disagree and say, we worked this shit out on our own. Donald Trump had not fuck all to do with it.
Wars that we're able to end.
FIFA's code of ethics says participants should be politically neutral. But the fact that the final draw is happening here inside the Kennedy Center is already a political message.
You think? And here, add a little bit more insult to injury. Donald Trump gets his name put on the building, the United States Institute of Peace. So now it's the Donald J. Trump United States Institute of Peace. Genocide backer and narcissist Donald J. Trump puts his name on the United States Institute of Peace. This is pathetic, like a little boy running around putting property of Donald stickers on everything in the house, said one critic. Signs of the building United States Institute of Peace were changed overnight to include Donald J. Trump, adding the name of the sitting U.S. president, whom, among other examples of warmongering and war making, has openly supported the Israeli genocide in Gaza, bombed Iran, sent an aircraft carrier strike group to threaten Venezuela, and ordered the extrajudicial killings of over 80 people aboard boats in the Caribbean and Pacific in the last recent months. And just to put a little button on this, the Pentagon watchdog says that Hegseth's use of Signal app put U.S. personnel at risk, AP sources say. Pentagon's watchdog found that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth put U.S. personnel and their mission at risk when he used a Signal messaging app to convey sensitive information about military strikes against Houthi militants in Yemen to people familiar with the findings said on Wednesday. And just keep this in mind. The reason why he was using the Signal app and not going through regular, already encrypted technology that the Pentagon has is because that encrypted technology would save all of that information as public record. And Pete Hegseth did not want anything that he is doing, whether it be legal or most likely illegal, to be saved on public record, which is why he used a easily hackable application and then turns around and invited an Atlantic journalist to join the chat. We are being ruled by the worst and most incompetent people of all time. Keg stand Pete over here playing war. Times is absolutely crazy. Oh, man, this year cannot end fast enough, but the only reason why I'm not in a hurry is that next year is probably going to be even worse. Do I see Pete Hegseth getting in trouble for this? He should. But do I see him getting in trouble for this? No. The only time I think that he would have anything to worry about is if it is detrimental to Donald Trump, and then he will throw him under the bus, or in this case, under the boat. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.